There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, if you want.
1, 2, 3, set, go.
You are tuned into the Power Chord Hour right here on 107.9 WRFA and tuned into the Power Chord Hour podcast. Thank you much for checking out this episode of the show, and it is one we don't get to do a whole lot, but with a guest in studio. I bet you can guess who that guest is. It's the guest we always have in studio, but it's always a good time, and that's why we do it. But I am joined by Joey Cobra, and I was thinking about it the other day. The past few years since doing the podcast, I started doing these like kind of middle of the year, talk about like records that have been out so far, and kind of like a early album of the year thing. And I thought, why not bring Joey in for this one? I guess we're like, it's insane to think we're halfway through the year now. So I thought, who better to talk to than Joey Cobra about some new music and just all that good stuff. Joey, man, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk about some of the stuff that's come out so far.
Yeah, how, I guess to like just kick it off right away, I was thinking about this like when kind of putting together like albums to talk about and stuff, but so far that, halfway through 2022, where do you think new music-wise it's lining up with, I would say, the last 2 years? Because we have been of all the awful things in the world, music was one thing we did get a lot. Like I started thinking about, I'm like, 2020 and 2021, for all the awful things, the music, there was a lot of good music, and I was almost comparing it to what's been out now, and I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, compared to the last few years, has this been a good year so far for new music? Do you like, for you personally, like, if you found as much as the last couple of years, has it slowed down a little? Like, this is something I was thinking of like an hour ago, and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think maybe it's slowed down a little bit, but I think for me, I'm kind of just in my own world, and I tend to listen to a lot of the same stuff that I have been listening to, so it's other than like that, that Spotify new release playlist or whatever that comes out, I'll usually rifle through that once a week and try to add bands where I can, but not necessarily actively finding new music. So I think that my gauge on like how much music is coming out and the quality of it is maybe not as much as like people who are staying on top of like everything that's all the new releases and what's coming out in each scene and everything. But I've been really impressed with the things that I've heard, and there's some stuff that I've listened to that I'm really excited to talk about tonight. Oh, nice.
No, and yeah, as I say that, it has been like a good year for, like, there are good records that are out, but it was something I was thinking about because I'm like, we're 2 years now into a new decade, and like the last couple of years, just music released in such a different way than it normally would. So it's like, it's almost interesting to compare it to the last couple of years. Normally I don't do that so much where I'm like, whatever, like last year was that, where I'm like, I don't know, just the way music was being released, and now I feel like it's kind of, in a way, getting back to normal. Like, everyone's kind of, whatever albums they were holding off releasing, they're out now.
Yeah.
A lot of them are following them up even. Like,
yep.
I think we're kind of out of that, like, weird spot of the last few years in that sense with, like, kind of releasing, music that you've been working on for 3 years, kind of like, deal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But, you want to kick it off? You want to give us one of your records? We'll talk about it a little bit.
Sure. Actually, I want to talk about, so I've got a list of like 5 albums that have come out, but I also want to talk about real quick some of the bands who have released like singles.
Oh yeah, see, that's good to get into. I like that.
Are, probably potentially coming out with an album in 2022 that I'm looking forward to. So this band Microwave, they're from Atlanta.
Yeah, they've been around a while now.
They've been around for a long time, and they've got a few albums out. I just have really gotten into them the past couple of years, and the singles that they've released this year have just really blown me away. I think maybe my musical sense has gotten way more chill since I've become a dad, and I'm liking stuff that's just kind of a lot more easygoing. And they've got some really good singles, and then they also just came out with a split where they covered the Sublime song Santeria. And now you laugh, but like, and I haven't listened to Sublime in a long time. They were a really big part of my childhood, growing up in the 90s. We always had, a Sublime tape going, or Nirvana or whatever. But I haven't, that's kind of in the past, and I don't ever listen to Sublime anymore, but they did a killer job with this cover. And driving in my car up by the lake, like, this is a really cool song to put on, and the treatment that they gave it was just like so much more chill, and they did a really good job at it, and it's a really unexpected song to like listen to and be like, wow, this is really good for a weird random Sublime cover. This is oddly satisfying to listen to.
Without hearing, I've never heard it, but like, is it a cover where it's a weird song for it, because I feel like from the first line, if you know the song, you'll probably catch it right away. But like, is it one of those covers where you're pretty instantly know what you're listening to, or does it take a second before you go, oh shit, that's Santeria?
No, like like the way that they come in with the instrumentals at first, they like double it, so it's longer before the verse comes in.
Okay.
So they kind of like play out the instrumental a little bit, and they change it so that when you do hear the words come in, that's when you realize that you're listening to a Sublime song. Because before then, you're just like, oh, this is kind of a cool, chill song, and then all of a sudden it's like a Sublime song, and they did a really good job with it. So I'm looking forward to, and their other two singles that they've released are also, equally as impressive. Still along the lines of more like chill kind of pop sounding songs, but I guess that's just the direction that I'm going. Like, my daughter's listening to Disney movies all the time, soundtracks and everything, and it's just made its way into my musical listening to. I'm like listening to stuff that's much more like kind of pop influenced and everything. So
Microwave's a weird, and I don't know if we've talked about them before, but like, I need to go listen to them more, because they're like Turnover for me, where I heard them. I mean, I don't remember the exact one, but Microwave did something with like Adam Lazar from Taking Back Sunday, maybe like 2012, 2013. And like, that's the last thing I listened to. Nothing against them. I liked it. It's some bands I just don't follow. And it's crazy when later people talk about them. And it's like, they've progressed, they're not that band from like, whatever you listen to, you forget. They're not like frozen in time. So I need to go listen to them more, because you're not the first person I've heard bring up Microwave. They seem like they've done quite well for themselves, and I also feel like they've probably changed quite a bit since whatever. I don't even think I really remember what they sounded like on those, but I need to go back and listen.
Their album from 2016, Much Love, that's my favorite one by them. Didn't really get into the other two albums, but I mean, that one's really good, and then just the singles that they've put out this year just are really cool. Like, I think they had one in 2019 that had a little more like aggression to it, like a little bit of a different direction, and now they're like taking a step back and kind of slowing things down, and I like that version of that band. Like, when bands kind of like go lean a certain direction on one album, and then they kind of like explore the other end of the spectrum of their sound for the next album. I think that's nice, because fans kind of get a little bit of everything that makes up the band.
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you know that they have a new album coming out later? Or?
I don't. I mean, they've been releasing singles, and so when that happens, I think when it's like a single, but the artwork all kind of matches up, I think that's leading up to.
Yeah, you're right.
If it's like if the artwork doesn't match up, then maybe it's a fluke. But like
aesthetically, if
it's going along the same kind of visuals, I think that means that there's an album coming up that's got something to do with that artwork.
Nice.
I don't know.
Single wise, as we're kind of talking about that, any other bands that kind of come to mind that are like ones that have released a couple singles this year, or that you think are more is coming out from?
Yeah. Let's see. Sincere Engineer has been doing some cool stuff, and they're doing the thing where they'll release a single, but like on that release, like they add the other singles that they've released so far. So like at first they released one song, and then like they released two songs, but one of those songs is the previous one, and so they've got like 3 new songs that have come out, and those are really cool. And then also the Flatliners have been.
We just saw.
Yeah, we just went
like
up to Buffalo.
Ago.
Yep, saw those guys who crushed it live.
Great show.
They've still got it. They said, was it their 3rd show?
Yes, it was their. Yeah, you're right. It was their 3rd show, like that they played in the last couple of years, I believe. Mm-hmm. They were tight as could be. They sounded amazing.
Yeah, they're. I'm really looking forward to their new album. And there's something about seeing a band live that just totally like replenishes your faith in that band and like gets you so excited. And also seeing some of those new songs live makes it that much more special when you listen to the album later and you hear those songs and you're like, you have that extra connection with those songs as opposed to just coming in, without any, context or previous notion. Yeah. So
some bands, I feel like you almost, and I like when a band's like that. It reminds me, like I was a very casual Menzingers fan until I saw them live, and it was the same thing. I never really heard On the Impossible Past, and once I saw them live, they're just. I didn't know those songs, but when I heard them, they stood out. So then when I went to go listen to the record, and like the Obituaries come on, I go, "Oh, I remember!" Like that song, like blew my mind. Seeing it live, I'm like, "Oh, of course I'm going to remember that one." Like, I think it's the biggest compliment you can give a band.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you didn't discover the Flatliners that way, like to be like, I'm more stoked on you after seeing you live. That's normally a good thing.
Yeah.
It's not good if it's the other way. I saw you live and I burn all my records. That's not good.
I realized how much auto-tune you really used on that album.
Sincere Engineers, and we'll keep going, but I don't know that they've announced a new album, but last time they did this with Bless My Psyche, they were releasing single after single, and then we got an album. So they're another one I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we... Though I wouldn't, I'm almost wondering if we'll get one in 2023.
Yeah, maybe.
Because of where it's at now, I feel like we'll get a couple more singles, and then we'll get one. That'll be 2 years later, too, which I'd be very excited for that. I know you're kind of talking about anticipated, but that's definitely, that falls in my line, too. As well as that Flatliners, that's going to be a really good, excellent record. Mm-hmm.
I also saw the early November was announcing something.
Stuff. They're teasing a lot lately.
In August, so I don't know if they're going to put out a single in August or what, but
it's been a while since a full length, right? When's the last full length? I can't even remember.
Did they do? Was the acoustic one?
Well, they had that, but I'm thinking of just like a record of new material. They did do that acoustic one, but as far as like a studio album, it wasn't in View, right? There's definitely one after in View because that was 2015. There had to be one in between there that I'm forgetting.
It was Lilac. It was the one that there was some story behind it. Like they wrote it and then like ended up like re-recording it or like rearranging and reimagining all the songs or there was some crazy like story behind it. But that was 2019
it's been a while
Lilac
still.
Came out. Yeah.
Even 2019. Yeah, that's been a while since a new one. I would definitely be happy for a new early November record. I would have no problem with that.
Yep.
But as far as records, have come out so far this year, I do have one, and I don't know. Have you heard 3LH at all? Is that a band you're familiar with?
No.
They just put out, I believe it's their debut. It's kind of weird because when like a band is new to you and you kind of assume they're new, but then you start looking and it's like, oh, like their first release was like 2017. So at the very least, they've been around 5 years. But I think Silver Dream Road is their debut, and it's like the guitar playing. It's the best guitar playing I've heard all year. Like, I'm trying to think of a good way to like describe their sound, because it's like, oh, it's really like there's, I don't know, like they flirt with punk, but I don't know that I'd call them a punk band.
Yeah.
Kind of rockabilly, a little in that vein, but not a straight up. Like, that's a weird thing. I don't think they're a band that leans into one thing too much. So it's like, you hear rockabilly, you hear Dead Kennedys, you hear like X, you hear these different things. But the guitar playing, I can't say enough, and surf rock too, kind of somewhere in between there. And the guitar is just, it is, like, that's the highlight of it for me. Like, everything's good. Everyone in that band's good, but the guitar playing of their singer and their lead guitarist is just like, there's just something about it that, like, holy, like, that I pay attention the whole time. It's one of those where it ain't just, you know, a lot of times, I don't know, you're listening to the lyrics or this or that, and I am too. I don't want to take away from that, but like, that guitar is just something I'm like, oh, like that.
Something for like musicians to be able to appreciate.
They know how to play.
Yeah.
You can tell those dudes know how to play. Like, they're again, it's like they flirt with like punk, but they're too good of a band to be like, to call them, you know, punk. Like, like, I don't know if they'd have a problem with that, but like, just really, really good. Driving rhythm section as well. Like, just really solid. Like, it's weird. It has a modern sound, but it's also retro. There's a lot of like, surf rock, rockabilly kind of conjures up, you know, 50s, 60s era kind of stuff. But also, it's like these dudes are like probably early 20-somethings, you know. It's like, it's still, it's a younger generation doing it in a good way. Like, it doesn't feel like a stale thing or anything like that. Yeah. You know, nothing in that way. But on that one, I would just say it just came out in May. I feel like it might be something up your alley. I think, because again, it just falls in. I like it because it falls in a couple categories where, like, there's some bands, I think it's the best thing you can do is where one band you could show to maybe 3 different people who like different things and they all like it, you know, that kind of thing. Like,
for different reasons.
And I think those are the best bands where you can go, you can show this to 3 people who may not agree on much musically, who may not have anything in common, but you go, they'll all kind of like it. That's like 3LH, I'd say. I will say, song wise, I did write like a couple down for like each, like if you have not heard these, you want to go check them out. Psycho, the opener, just solid. That's some of the best guitar work on that one. That very much kind of akin to like Dead Kennedys, I would say. Nice. Shadow, really, really catchy song. Silver Dreams, but that whole record, again, like, everything about it's good. But I think if you're a guitar player and you're interested at all, like, in talented, like, just musicianship, you can kind of appreciate. I think 3LH, Silver Dream Road is definitely one to check out. But albums for you. You want to get into one of your full lengths? Yeah,
I just kind of stumbled upon this band like a couple weeks ago. Heard a few of their songs, and what I did was, because I knew we were doing this episode, I kind of threw together a playlist of like stuff that had, just like I did last year, like stuff, everything that had come out during 2022, and I wanted to like basically go through like just on shuffle and just whatever, not even like looking at what bands, like, so I've just got like, you know, however many, couple dozen albums, put the whole thing on shuffle, and whatever songs stand out, like, add that to a playlist. And so this is one that their songs definitely were standing out and hitting with me, and then decided to check out like the full album, and really kind of like really started to enjoy it, as opposed to like hearing it and being completely blown away for the first time. Like, it's one of those things where you give it the second chance, and you're like, oh, this is actually really good. And
some of my favorite stuff is that you don't. Some of my, like, Against Me comes to mind. My favorite Against Me records were the less easy to digest. They end up being the ones that are more instant. I don't know, they come to mind, but like sometimes you got to do that, and you end up going on like the third, whatever that is, second, third listen, you go, oh, it clicks. Like, I get it. It's like the greatest thing you've ever heard.
Yep. It's the album's called The Long Way, The Slow Way. It's emotional, kind of poppy, indie, rocky. It's not like, a super punk rock album. It's almost like I don't listen to the front bottoms, but it's like kind of like that, but less annoying. You know what I mean?
Is it more like the Weaker Thans? Because the front bottoms are an annoying Weaker Thans, in my opinion. People who like the front bottoms have just never heard the Weaker Thans, in my opinion.
I wouldn't draw comparisons to the Weaker Thans, but it's really well produced, and they've got this really great like guitar tone that's like, it's like clean but like pushing towards fuzzy, and they just do it really well. The choruses are really catchy. Like if you threw this on in your car, like driving with the windows down, you'd be like, you'd find yourself on a couple spins, like just starting to sing along with the choruses and everything. And it's like, it's more like mid-tempo, kind of slower than what I'm used to, but it's, I don't know, it's summer, it's nice, you just kind of like cruise around, listen to emotional music where it's like, it's almost more of like the word vomity, like getting out those little nuances and thoughts about the day of like just an everyday, younger person, Gen Y, millennial, whatever, who's just kind of like just trying to deal with reality and relationships in their life and everything. So as opposed to like having a message or, trying to tell a story or anything, it's more like autobiographical, I guess.
You can tell what the song's about. There's not a whole lot of hidden meaning and kind of like...
But they've got little callbacks to like Lake Erie and Buffalo, and I think I saw that they were from Florida. But there's definitely...
Who's the band? I don't think you said
they're called Camp Trash.
Oh, okay. I've heard the name. I've never listened to them.
Yeah, but there's some kind of like Western New York connection going on in their lyrics. So
that's an easy sell. If you start, it's like, I'm gonna like you if you start referencing things. I mean, it's just a given. Yeah,
it's cool. So that's one that made the list that really impressed me.
That's good. I'll have to listen to that one. Mm-hmm. That sounds. I like it too, and I feel like sometimes I talk about it too much, but like that summertime thing, like it's so important. Like those records are just, I can roll my window down.
Yep.
I can listen to it. Like you can blast it on a fat. Like maybe you're just going down the highway blasting it. Maybe you're just nice slow drive somewhere. Yep. Whatever. And there's just certain records where it's like, my God, like,
summer vibes.
Yeah, it's true. Some records just seem made for that. There are some, like, I think one of the classics still is just like riffy pop punk will never not be good for the summertime. Like if you just give me like just catchy, simple pop punk, maybe some melody, maybe a little riffage, but like it's hard for me not to want to listen to that on a hot summer day. You know what I mean?
Like Glass Top Suburbia.
Holy shit, yeah. The best. I mean, the best summer, like you can't not. And it's like it just, again, like, and I think a lot of times I like asking people that too. Like, did you think about this stuff? It's like, I don't know what people think about when they write it, but sometimes you just release a really good summer record. Yeah. And then there's others too. Then there's people release good fall records, good winter records. Like, I'm such a fan of that, just like with talking about sequencing and all that stuff. Like, I think it's so important where there's those records that I'm sure you have where it's like come October, I'm sure there's a couple records you might pull out. It gets kind of cold out, the hoodie comes out, it's not so nice out, and there's those couple ones you're like always going to listen to.
It's like the punk rock fans version of Christmas music where like
it is.
It's
Misfits.
time.
It's Halloween time.
I gotta get out the black hoodies and the black jeans and
my black heart and soul.
And time to cruise around and watch all the crows flying around and the leaves change,
Yeah, it's important to that actually. And this next one, I think a pretty good summertime record actually. Joyce Manor's new one, 40 Ounces to Fresno. I don't know if we've ever talked about them. Are you a Joyce Manor guy at all or no?
I mean, no, I never really got into them, but I'm definitely gonna check this album out. Maybe we can, if you put a put a playlist together of
Let me tell you something. This album is 9 songs and 19 minutes. Actually, no, it's 17 minutes long. So like, it's a
perfect.
It's not a long listen. Like
Yep.
if you, if you got to tie your shoe or something, you can probably listen to the whole record as you do it. Like that kind of thing.
Yep.
That's what I love about it, though. The thing with Joyce Manor is all their records are like that. Like you don't want a Joyce Manor record that's 40 minutes long. That would be weird. If they did one that like clocked in like that, it'd just be an odd thing. They're very much like the kings of just short and sweet and just talk about like cutting out the fat. It's like you kind of I don't know. We were talking about it. What band were we just talking about? Like literally minutes ago. We were talking about like with Microwave, kind of like with your sound and changing. And I'm not familiar enough with the Microwave to know if like the general consensus with fans, if they like as they go in a different direction, or if like they are a one where it's like, oh, we liked it better and it was like this. Joyce Manor's interesting because they're still big, but like I feel like a lot of people are like, I like the old. They're one of those bands where it's like the first 3 records are really good, the quirky pop punk kind of stuff they used to do more of. I'm more of the party, and I love those records. I like as they mature. Like I like to continue watching them. I still think they're popular, but I do like Never Hungover Again, the first record. Like those are the ones most people will probably like. The Joyce Manor fans like, that's what I like. That's what I want. I like what they're doing on these. It's like I think. Like, for one, this record's sitting in, if I had to, like, make a list, it's sitting in top 3. I do know my favorite of the year so far. This one would be number 2 or 3. And again, it's just short and sweet, like a Joyce Manor record should be. Like, they experiment. Like, I mean, they open the whole record with a cover. The longest song on the record is a, like, 80s synth pop cover. And it's also like 3 minutes long, and none of the other songs clock in over like 1 minute and 30 seconds. The rest of the album.
What song is it?
It's called Souvenir. I can't think of who actually. I didn't know the song until I heard the cover.
Wow.
I think it was a hit, but it's an obscure. It's not like a super well known. They could probably get away with it with people not. It's not Santeria. Like they didn't open it with Santeria and you go, oh, it's Santeria.
Yeah.
It's one where most people would probably go, it's just a Joyce Manor song.
Yep.
To be honest, it's kind of like that. But like something really good. Another band I don't know if I've ever talked much about. But Motion City Soundtrack, they had Tony Thaxton play drums on this one. He's a beast. I mean, that guy never gets enough credit for his drumming anyway. But like, I was reading an interview, and they were originally going to try to get Josh Freese on this record to play because they needed a drummer. Which Josh Freese is pretty rad. Don't get me wrong. That's still a great.
Just to the top, the tippity top.
They got that Epitaph money. They got that Epitaph dollars behind them. But I guess it was Brett Goritz who told him, which it probably was, we ain't paying we ain't paying for Josh Freese. But he's like, you should go with Tony Thaxton. And I think his drumming on this just works so perfectly. Because sometimes really like drummers, I feel like can influence the sound so much. And Joyce Manor, that's the one thing they don't have a constant. Like, I mean, it's not like they have a revolving door of musicians, but I didn't realize that they have almost a different drummer on every release.
Interesting.
I don't know why, but they always have different drummers. But he fit in such a good way because when you do that again, like that can change the sound of records quite a bit. I hear a lot of people go, drummers are one of the biggest change. Like at least if you're playing in the band,
so important, so important to the band.
And you're getting people playing in different ways. Like all these drummers are playing differently, but like he works so well. And the funny thing is, he's not touring with them, but they have for the touring drummer is Neil from the Lawrence Arms.
That does not surprise me.
He's playing drums for him live. He didn't play on the record, but Tony played on here, and like it just sticks out. Like again, I'm a big fan of Tony Thaxton's drumming. So he's one of those guys where if you tell me he's on a record, I'm like, oh hell yeah.
I'm surprised that Neil didn't do it.
I don't understand why he didn't. That part I didn't get either. I don't know how that works. But again, they have a weird thing with drummers for some reason. Yeah, they change constantly. But like again, I think Josh Freese would work on this. But knowing Josh Freese's drums compared to Tony Thaxton, I think Tony fit on this better. Like, nice. It just works so well. And again, like I think it's one of those records. Like it's not mature. They're not. Joyce Manor's like they kind of have that like quirky lyrics. I don't know. Like the lyrics, they're one of those bands where like they're still good. You're like that's a good line, but they'll also throw something in. I can't remember the exact line, but one of the songs on Dance, or one of the lyrics on Dance With Me is like, if love is free, then why is everybody stealing shit from Best Buy? Like things like that. It's just like, but then at the same time, like before that, they'll say a line that's like amazing, like, like oh my god, I wish I wrote that. Yeah. Yes, like, but they go back and forth, which is what I love. I mean, they're not a band who ever really takes themselves seriously. I mean, again, most of their album covers look kind of like jokes. Like if they name it a record Never Hung Over Again, like things like that. They're not super serious.
Yep.
But like, I love them because they're another one who exists in this world of like, and kind of with the Motion City soundtrack connection, they're almost like a band that people categorize as pop punk, but I don't think any of them would like you categorizing them as that. Like, I don't think those guys really listen to a lot of pop punk. I don't.
Sure.
If you talk to them, I think they're listening more to indie rock and old, like, you know, old 80s stuff, or like a lot of Guided by Voices and things like that. Like, but they just fall in that category more. And I think on the last few records, like, they still have those fast, fun songs, but I think they're kind of doing that more where it's like, hey, like, we are kind of this pop punk band, but we don't listen to like Blink-182. We're not sitting around listening to like Green Day or like whatever pop punk bands you would come to mind. Like the things you might think they're listening to, I don't think they're listening to at all.
Right.
Their influences aren't what you would think their influences are.
Yeah.
But then they have an interesting thing too, like on this, where like I think on this record, like they're never a big. I wouldn't say all the songs are like anthemic, but like Gotta Let It Go, that was like the first single off of it. It is kind of this big like riffs and rock, and it reminds me of like kind of like it would fit like with Third Eye Blind like in the 90s on the radio.
Yeah.
In this, but again, like in this weird, like it's a mixture of everything where like you hear Guided by Voices, but it also kind of sounds like Third Eye Blind, but it also kind of sounds like a pop punk band. Like,
Right.
but in a good way, like
Yeah.
in a very good way, the way that they like blend it all together. And like again, it's just this, I think certain bands, you want different things from them. With Joyce Manor, I want a short, fun record, and like that's what they gave you. Like it's not, they didn't give you a super experimental hour-long album. They did, and some bands maybe you want that from. They didn't do that here. That's not. Don't come looking here for like a totally left field record.
Yeah.
But they still progressed. They still like matured, and you know, and this one's pretty new. This one just came out. I forgot, just last month. And again, it was an easy one to like. Again, like we were talking about, like some records you get right away, some take a while to click. This one I was kind of like on first listen. I was like, oh, okay, I'm behind this.
Yeah.
I was waiting for a new Joyce Manor record for a long time. But if you want to go listen to this record and you haven't heard it yet, my 3 recommendations on that one would be NBTSA, which Never Be the Same Again, Dance With Me, and Reason to Believe. I would say those are like the 3 best songs on there, and kind of have that, kind of show you each side of their sound, kind of. I feel like that's a good, which after this I'm sure we'll make a big ass playlist of like all our things, so
that'll be helpful to me. I will just listen to it just to kind of educate myself.
Get educated, man. But how about you? Another record for you?
Yeah, so this one is Audio Karate with Otra. This is
good.
It's great. It's incredible. I have been following these guys for a long time. I saw them back in the day up in Buffalo.
Extreme Wheels, right?
Yeah, at Extreme Wheels. I forget who they were opening up for, but they, like, you really appreciate, especially seeing them live, at least back then, like, you appreciate how much technical guitar noodling that goes on during those songs.
And I'm sick of Jason Camacho always putting himself down. Every time I've interviewed him, he like puts himself down as guitar. It's like, dude, you're the most original guitar players. Like, you listen to go listen to Lady Melody or even the stuff on like Space Camp. No one's doing it like that. Like, you got to give yourself credit, man. Like, you're a damn good guitarist.
Like, during the verse, like when everybody says like you're not allowed to play a solo during a verse, and he's like, I don't know. I don't even know that was a rule. Yeah. So fuck you.
Exactly.
And I heard, it was funny because I heard their singer like warming up in the bathroom too, like in one of the stalls. I was just like, somebody's just like screaming their head off right now. And then like he comes out and I was like, oh, it's the singer of Audio Karate. Okay,
that's just art.
Yeah, and but this album, it's not new songs, right? It's all previously unreleased older songs, but they re-recorded them all recently.
It was
right?
kind of like, it was like that, because it was just like, oh my god, what was the release a couple years ago? I can't think of the name. Oh man, they kind of did the same thing like in like 2018 with that last release, where it was like, it wasn't new songs, but it was songs off what would have been like their third record.
Okay, yeah.
And then they did rework them a little, though. There was like, they put some production in. I'm sure there was some like, I'm sure they threw some new tracks on, but like, I believe the vocals were all from the old, like all old vocals, mostly old guitar and stuff. And then they might have just threw a little like extra on. I can't. Why can I not think of the name? Because that's another solid release from them like 2 years ago, and I cannot think of the damn name of it.
Well, this one is like it's a perfect blend because the songs span such a long.
Malo, sorry. It's
there
Malo.
It is. Yeah.
With the sickest artwork. I love that artwork.
Yeah.
I love that artwork.
So this one is like it's perfect from like a audio karate fan standpoint because since it spans so much time, there's songs that sound like Space Camp. There's songs that sound like Lady Melody, and there's even some elements of like Indian School, their other project that they did like in between when after like Audio Karate broke up or whatever. But it's just got all these different notes, so it's like a journey kind of listening to
really
it
is.
And like hearing all these different things. But definitely like Lady Melody was like my favorite Audio Karate album.
Good.
And
that record should have sold millions of records.
Yes,
like it's
absolutely.
still so original. Still in like when you look at all the bands in that scene and when that album came out and what was coming out, still great stuff. But that's like it sits on its own island. It's its own kind of thing. I don't know what you even compare it to.
Yeah, and like so it's so original and so like authentically them. So I think that they definitely had something special, and I think that this will scratch that itch of like I need new Audio Karate music. This is definitely the album for you. This is a really fun just kind of listening experience. And I think my favorite song is the opener, Lovely Residence. That's got Emily from she was the former singer of Tsunami Bomb doing like the harmonies in there. It's just a cool, really cool song, really cool opener for an awesome album.
Track 2 on that, Segue, is like one of my, and I hope it is Segue, but I'm thinking that's the song I'm thinking of. That's like one of my favorite Audio Karate songs now. Yeah. Like that like sits up there, and I think that's a Lady Melody one, because if it's the one I'm thinking of, right away you go, oh, I can tell what album that was recorded around. Like you can go, because you're right, and it's fun, because you kind of go, oh, that sounds like Space Camp. Oh, that sounds like Lady Melody. Like you can kind of like tell probably when they were recording it,
and you'll be like singing along with that song before it even like finishes. Just on first listen, you'll be like singing along with it.
I'm hoping what happens, because I mean, again, like with Malo and with Otra, they're both so good, and like they're toying around with old songs. What I'm hoping is it's a real kick in the ass for them to just write a new, because I think they have it in them. I think they may not. I don't know that they think they do, and I don't want to speak for them. But I think they think about their legacy line and go, can we still pull this off? I think they absolutely could. I think a new Audio Karate album, if you're listening, guys, make a new one, because you could still make I think that's a band capable of still writing one.
The world needs it.
It does. Some bands, I would say, no. Stay, like, if you try to write a new one, it's probably going to tarnish your legacy. Like, I don't think that Audio Karate, like, we want it. I think the world wants it.
They're doing it anyways. They did. This is an album that came out during 2022. So, like, obviously, you're still interested in doing this and releasing music and putting.
They've been back together for almost 5 years now. When you think about it, I first had Jason on. They were just getting back together in 2018. It's the first time I had him on, and that's 4 years ago. Yeah.
So I mean, and you know, takes, especially when you get older, and I think I say it every time I come on, it gets harder and harder to like do that.
He also lives in Oregon, and the rest of the dudes live down in Southern California.
So you know, but I think it would be worth their while to try to make that work. To try to put those new songs out there. If not an album, at least like an EP. I think they've definitely got an EP in them for 2023.
But also, and then we can go on to the next one. But like on top of guitar, I mean, Art's like voice on those things. Like you've never heard someone shred their voice. Like the way he screams, and like it's just, again, for reason number a million why that band should be bigger and why they should have been bigger in their day as well. Like, just, I mean, those vocals too. You can't touch those vocals. That's like, so goddamn good.
I think that I read somewhere. I don't know if it was like on their Instagram page or something like that. That they that he like does those in like one take or like two takes. Yeah, like one or two takes, like, and it doesn't even write down the lyrics or there's some
That
like
is true,
really
'cause there isn't lyrics, I think, for
Yeah.
this one or Malo. And I think that's kind of the joke, is like we never really wrote them down.
Just,
a lot of
like,
them were like
sing 'em,
scratch
yeah.
lyrics, which is amazing that those were your scratch lyrics, which most people, if you're doing scratch lyrics, the plan is to go back later. They're exactly
Yeah.
that. It's just in place to kind of know the melody
Yep.
and all that stuff. They're already so good where it's like, well, why
Yep.
mess with it? Like,
Yep.
you're not going to get it better. Do that.
Exactly. So I mean, there's a layer of like impressiveness that I don't think people even realize when they're just listening to the songs too.
I love, and I know we go on those tangents anytime we talk audio karate, because we have before on here. But yeah, I can't say enough good things about that band. Just like, again, I think any band, just like kind of like the Joyce Mayer thing, where it's like, I love pop punk, but I also realize pop punk's such a restrictive genre.
Yeah.
And like it is kind of very one dimensional. So when you get bands like that who kind of do something that stands out, where you go, Audio Cry is kind of like a pop punk band, but they do all these other things, like you appreciate it that much more.
Yeah, kind of transcend what the walls that are built around.
Which you would
it
think of
can
what
be.
pop punk, it's like, oh no, like this is really like, again, this is just like the next step up. But I'm all about it. An album for me, one I absolutely love, and I just had the dudes on a couple months ago, but the Stereo, their new record 13, that was that's a strong reunion record. That I got to give them for not writing. It's the first Stereo record in like 20 something years, and then for Rory and Jamie, like 1999 was the last one, so whatever that math is, 23 years.
That's crazy.
So for that long to not write with one another, and then to like, it is really, and they said it's like a spiritual sequel to their first record. There's records after, but like for people who don't know, like Rory was out of the band after the first record, and then they went on without him. But this one really, sometimes people go like, oh, it's a spiritual sequel of our biggest record, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm sure it is. Like, I'm sure that's not just a ploy to try to get people to listen to it. But this truly is like 1,000,000% giving them credit. I'm like, they came back with such a strong like record where I'm like, this like sits like, I mean, you have 300, which is this quintessential record, but you're like, this one does sit perfectly next to it. Which again, most bands, when they tell you like a record they're doing 23 years after their debut, and they're like, yeah, it's like that debut. It's like,
yeah,
okay, man, I'll be the judge of that. I'll be the judge of how close these are. And I'm like, and it's not even that they sound exactly alike, but it's a continuation, and they just work so well together. I wrote down, I want Jamie and Rory to write albums together forever. It's people.
Yeah.
It's two guys who I think, and I had this thought too a while back, where like, there's some musicians where I think, and not even just a Stereo, I mean, if you're a fan of The Impossibles or Animal Chin or anything they did outside of that, those guys, I think no matter what genre they had picked up, they would have written amazing songs. Like if Jamie Wolford somehow got into like bluegrass instead of like pop punk and ska, he would have been an amazing bluegrass artist. Same with Rory. Like if Rory for some reason was in a rockabilly band, it would be like the best rockabilly songs you ever hear. Like I think, how there's some musicians where it's like it doesn't matter what, and we've talked about this a million times actually. I mean, Joey Cobra and stuff comes up where those guys who, it doesn't matter just because of what you're writing is what you fell into. But I think no matter what you would have found, you were just musically proficient where it would have been like the best.
Well, also you've got people who, they're not only good musicians by themselves, but then they find a person who like makes them a better musician, and they
complement
write,
each other.
They're like musical soulmates, So you've got two people who write great songs, but together just are so much bigger than the sum of the parts. Like it, and that always can really result in like the best songs when two people are like collaborating and so in sync with each other. That they can kind of like make things even better than they normally would be alone.
You're pushing yourself too, I think, because it's like, well, damn, I got to keep up with this guy. It's not like I'm the sole songwriter in this band. I'm like, well, this guy might show me up.
Right.
And then also when the record comes out, it's like, what happens when one of them has 8 songs and the other has like 1 song? You got to think of that stuff too. Like, are you constantly writing? Are you like, I think it does probably push you in a lot of ways.
Well, also like I guess what I mean is like for some like two musicians who like co-write songs like together as opposed to like
I see what you're saying.
as opposed to like Lawrence Arms where like, okay, well, I wrote 5 songs and
This
you
is more
wrote 5
collaborative.
songs. Yeah, like
We're writing them together.
Yep. I think that definitely results in some really great music.
I think so. I think on this one, like again, like it makes me so happy because I love the Stereo, but I got into them like 2011, 2012, like in it, like so many bands I got into long after they were gone, where you would never think that, like, I never thought they were really, like, they played some reunion shows, but that's not a band you'd go, oh, they're gonna get back together and write music and stuff like that. And I'm like, you couldn't have asked for a better. I mean, like we were talking early November earlier, and like that Incurrence came out 10 years ago, and that one I always think of where I go, you know, a lot of times reunion albums can be disastrous, and then you come back with something like that where it's like, my God, you've outdone yourselves. Like this is better than anyone would probably even expect from a band who wasn't around all that time.
To be honest, I mean, a lot of the times that time off is the reason why that album is so good, because it like when you're away from it for so long, you kind of like recharge your batteries and you reinvigorate your desire to be like playing this music. You come back to it knowing exactly why you're doing it versus something that you had been doing since you were 16 and now you're just like, you know, you're in the trenches and you've just been doing
bills
it.
with this too.
Yeah.
It's like it's not fun anymore. It's not for fun.
Yeah, you get burnt out, and so then when you step away and you lose that, you kind of you're like relinquishing like that entire part of your life. Then you're like, okay, well, here's the reasons why I miss all of that, and here's the reasons why all of those things need to be back in my life, or here's the things that if I do it again that I would change. And I think that albums like that and albums like this are definitely like the result of that time off.
I think you're absolutely right. And like something I notice, I feel like 70-80% of the people I interview on the show are people from bands who were around 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Like I'm talking to a lot of people who the heyday was like early 2000s or whatever. That's when they're doing it. But all I notice is all these people, like you're talking about, to your point, are coming back years, if not decades later. And it's just like, we do it for fun now. And it's like, it's not a paycheck. And it is literally just for fun. We don't have to write a new record every year. We don't have to go on tour for 5 months out of the year. We're literally doing this for fun. Like, I don't think Rory or Jamie think that this record's going to sell 3 million copies. I don't think they think they're going to play arenas. They're not going to break it big on this one. It's for fun. It's for fans. It's for themselves. I think that's when you get the best stuff. Like the bands, I'm like, I think there was a time in my life where I was like, oh, you always want a band to release a record every 2 years. But then you realize I think the album cycle is, while I understand why you have to do it and you also have to stay relevant, it also is a lot of times the downfall of a band.
Sure.
It's not fun anymore. It's a paycheck. It's not what you want to be doing. And you kind of give all that up, and then years later you get back to it. Actually, Jason Camacho, I remember talking to him the first time I interviewed him. He didn't play guitar at all in between quitting Audio Crowdy and them reuniting in 2018. He went like 11 years without touching a guitar.
Yeah, that's wild.
Isn't it? It's wild to me, but it's the same thing where it's like, I guess I wasn't in a touring band for 6 or 7, like however long they were doing it. I've never went and tried grinding it and making it for however many years, and then the sting of when it doesn't happen, or, you know, all the millions of reasons why things fall apart with a band. And it's like, sometimes it builds up to a point where it's like, well, music's not a fun thing anymore.
Right. You got to walk away.
But it is, like you were saying, like you get back to, I mean, we were just talking like Audio Crowdy. These are Audio Crowdy and the Stereo, 2 bands who went decades without new music. Like long stretches of inactivity. And it's like, damn, if you come back every now and then and just go, hey, here's a new record we did. It's like, I'm all for that. I don't need something all the time. Just give me something when you can. I mean, Jamie Wolford on the production side, that dude's just a producer. Like that guy, when you talk about like someone who gets it, like the record's huge. It sounds full, and it's like, it's all like in-house. Like it's all, And I normally don't like when bands self-produce. I go, you need that outside source. You need someone who's a true producer, not just our guitarist kind of knows Pro Tools. Like, I think that's always bad. It's not the case with this one. This is one band where I go, you can kind of do it in-house. I think Rory and I think they know what they're doing. They know what they need to sound like and how to do it, where it's like, Okay, and I also think Jamie could be a producer. It's not a thing where it's weird to tell your bass player, hey, you got to do this differently. You got to do another take. I think he'll truly play a producer's role.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, like, I think that works doing it like in-house that way. So it's like, again, I'm looking into the future, but I'm like, damn, the four of them work so well together. It comes out well. Like, just keep kind of writing.
We're too old for this bullshit of like, trying to preserve people's feelings and stuff.
No.
Just you do it the right way.
Do it the right way, and including if you get a record like this.
That's why we're here.
Their voices, like, just a record talking about like picking up where you left off. Like, everything sounds great. I also got to say, for rhythm section, Chris and Sam, both of those dudes, solid drummer and bass player. Like, they have a whole great band behind them. And also, the thing I also got to say, like, because the stereo gets brought up, they were never big, but the big thing about them is how they like influenced all those bands. And like, you listen to this record, and it is a reminder of the influence they had, because you hear them and go, damn, they kind of did lay a blueprint for a lot of, including like Fueled by Ramen bands.
Oh yeah,
in those, like, you do listen to them and you go, yeah, they kind of started this. Like, when you go, this part kind of reminds me of this band, or this band reminds me of this, I'm like, it reminds me of that band, but that band was influenced originally by the stereo. Uh-huh. You know what I mean? They're like one of those bands. And again, like, it's a huge compliment. I think this record reminds you of why, they're like so revered and loved for those reasons.
Exactly.
I also think it will please, if you're a stereo fan, I think it's a record you're going to like. But I also think it could gain them new listeners. Like I said, I don't think they're a band who's going to become household name, sadly. They should. They deserve it. I don't think they're going to become a household name, but I do think, again, with that influence on so many people, I think if this got out to people who were listening to the stuff that came after them, the Fall Out Boys, the Dashboards, just all those pop punk bands of that era, but they didn't know about the stereo, now heard this record, I'm like, I think you would fall in love. Like, I think there's people who need to hear this, where it's like, yeah, go back, like, know your roots, go back, because I think you're gonna like this.
Check it out. We gotta get the Impossibles follow up now too. Oh my God,
so good. The Impossibles are so good. Rory, actually, another reason I got to listen to the new Joyce Manor record, Rory worked on that a little, and he co-wrote some songs on the last Joyce Manor record. I don't think he co-wrote on this, but he was writing songs on the one before it. So if you're a Rory fan, dude,
sweet.
I'll send you the Rory songs. I'll make sure you can hear those.
Definitely.
But I would say, for my favorite ones off that, I would say check out My Ready Arms. That's just a good old classic song. Like, quintessential stereo. Heather is a really good one. And Seek and Find, the album closer, it's so different, but I think it's one of, like, it might be the best song on the record, and it sounds nothing. I mean, there's accordion in it. It's not really super the stereo. It's not what you would think of the stereo, but I'm like, damn, that's good. Mm-hmm. It works so well. They took a chance that could have been bad. It was really, really good. So cool. That is another one. Like, I don't have my definitive like top 5 or anything, but really, if I'm thinking of like my top 3, this one might be sitting there with Joyce Manor, and I won't say my number 1 because I'll be talking about that in a second here. But this one's up there as one of my favorites. How about you? How about another one from you?
So Symphony of Distraction, Horse Shit. They just
that's a great name.
They just dropped this. I think early 2022, but it's another collection of like older unreleased songs that they kind of put together, like, B-sides and stuff that, is rare or completely unreleased, and put it together, made a full album of it. And it's just that breakneck fast 90s Fat Wreck style, like punk good rock, just really great songs, don't take themselves too seriously, some funny shit on there. And they've even got like a cover of the Bracket song, 2-Rack 005 or whatever. Oh, yeah. It's just a super fun album if you know them. Definitely check this one out. And if you like, those like fast, like skate punk bands, pop punk bands, you like those big melodies and super fast drums, then definitely check this one out. But I mean, I've talked about these guys a million times, every time I come on. So definitely I would pick this one. Just a super fun group of songs and a nice, quick, fast listen.
I like those collections that work well because it's weird. Sometimes a collection of songs, I mean, we were like talking Ocho 2 earlier, and it's like, sometimes it sounds weird. Like, it does sound like just a random mix match of like a collection of songs. But like other times, it can work really well. Like, this sounds like it works well together.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I mean, I've been a big fan of everything these guys have put out, and they had their band before called Second Shot was like, I mean, they were putting out albums in like, I think 2002, 2004. Like, these guys have been doing it for a long time. And I think they probably got together, you know, maybe in the late 90s or something like that.
Geez.
But these guys are awesome at what they do, and if you go through the entire Symphony of Distraction catalog and you're not satisfied, then check out their band Second Shot, because it's more of that, but like, you know, way back, and like that's their roots, and they still like, you know, blow it out of the water even back then. But this is just, you know, I'm always looking forward to stuff that these guys put out, and this definitely hit the spot for sure.
There's something to be said too about like when you work together for that long, where it's like, even if it's not the same band, even those dudes are just in various bands together throughout the years, it's like you do just get that thing that, like, because that's not just something that normally just happens, or a band everyone just locks in right away or anything like that. Like, you get that over time. You get to know each other. You play to each other's strengths and things like that. And like, there's just something to be said about a band where it's like, yeah, if you've been around that long, even if it was like in other ones, it's like you probably know each other very well and you know how to write a song. Like, it works. I think it's the payoff of staying together that long. I think that is. Yeah. I mean, it sometimes also happens a band just becomes bloated and they're like, well, we're just gonna, you know, whatever, formulaic or whatever. It doesn't always work out, but like, I do think there is something to be said when you like work together that long, where it's like, work to those strengths, you can figure it out. Some of your best shit can come from, you know, being together that long.
And they don't do shows or anything. I don't even think the members live on the same like coasts even. So I mean, they just kind of like have been doing stuff, I don't know, remotely. So it's not even like they're, you know, together all the time and like practicing and doing all these things. It's like, I mean, this is 100% something that they're just kind of doing for the fun of it. Like, they're not like trying to make this like their serious full-time, like, you know, money making thing,
which is better. We would keep talking about this. Like, I think a lot of times your music's better after that.
Yeah, there's no pressure. It's just
pressure's
like,
gone. It's a lot better.
Yeah, it can be its complete authentic version of itself, you know.
No, that is I'll have to check that one out. I've not listened to that one. I got one, and I won't talk too much about it because actually I don't think the record's out for like another week. Like half of it's out, so you can still hear most of it, but it's not out all the way. But No Win, I just had some of those dudes on their new record, Dodger Stadium, which they have an EP out. You can hear half the record. So as I say that, you can still, if it's a 10-track record, you can go listen to 5 of them. I've heard the whole record. It's such, you know, they were talking about like fun summer records and stuff like that. It's like this really fun indie rock. Like, it's good indie rock, but like even they said they tried to make it dumb and fun. Okay. It sounds like the year 2001. Like there's sounds of like dial-up internet or like a modem going, or like there's things where like if you were on the internet in 2001 or you were on AIM, you'll hear sounds. Like we were talking about this, where I'm like, it's so funny because if you're either too old or too young, you'll have no clue. It's just a sound in a song. Yep. But if you're of a certain age, and I think you're in it, you would listen to it and go, like right away, you know these things, and they make it musical. They make it like musical. Like it's insane. The whole beginning of the album starts with, you know, that sound where like when you put a phone up like to electronics, you start getting that like that beeping and stuff. It's like how the whole record starts. It's this really funny. It's super interesting because I don't want to call it, and when I talk about it, I said it's like kind of mindless fun pop music, but there is substance underneath. Like lyrically, it's very good. Musically, it's really good. But like when they were writing it, they didn't have a drummer with them, so like they were programming drums and doing a lot of loops. And so like it's this. Because this is their second record. Their first one's a lot more straightforward, and it's a very good record, Downey. But it's more like straightforward indie rock. You know what I mean? It's very more guitars, drums. This one, I mean, the guitars and stuff are still there. but it's almost like, I don't know. It's hard to like. That's why I say like the year 2001, because I don't even know artists to like compare it to. I see people talk about New Radicals, which I mean, besides the hit or two they have, I'm not super familiar with. But like from what I do know, I could see that. And yeah, just like real late 90s, early 2000s. And I have to give them credit because like the aesthetic for it, the entire thing, like they lean into it. But like even their website is the most amazing thing for this record. Like the press photos, the album art for the singles, like everything. Even their EP is called Enhanced CD, and it looks like, I don't know if you remember Enhanced CDs from the early 2000s.
Absolutely.
The font even looks like, I don't know if you remember what it looked like when it's on there. That's what it looks like. It like it is so perfect in every way. Like when you want to talk about a band trying to have an aesthetic or a look, I mean, like that, like look at that. That looks like the year 2001.
Yeah,
it looks,
absolutely.
It conjures up so many thoughts if you were there. Like it's just that kind of thing. And yeah, like I think it's such a solid sophomore release too, because it is like it does not sound straight up like their first record, but like the chances they took were good because it's like it works with it all. Like still the things they keep from the first No Win record are on here. The drums are probably the biggest thing. Like if you listen to the drums, I think that's one of the biggest changes, and it really shapes the sound of the record. I think it helped make it sound like the way it does, but in the best way. And it is funny because normally I probably wouldn't like a lot of this stuff. Where it's like, yeah, we programmed the drums. It's kind of I'm like, it doesn't sound good, but just somehow these two things together, the marriage of them both, like it just works so amazingly well, and it shouldn't, but it does.
And it sounds like they took something that was kind of like a challenge, and they just like leaned into it and decided to make the most of their limited resources. So
this was right at this was beginning. I think they were recording like March or April of 2020. Like,
wow.
So it was like right away, and it was like, yeah, like we don't have a drummer, we can't get a drummer. Like it's just us two in this studio. That's it. Yep. That's what we got. And but I like it because it is like I think a lot of times maybe you start that way, but once it keeps going, you end up scrapping that. And I think they talked about that. Like at one point, they thought maybe they would eventually. Like, no, let's keep this. Like, let's lean into this. Like again, like let's make it dumb and fun. But like. In a great way, like again, in a way where it's like it's a summertime record, and also like it does have a mainstream appeal to it. Where like I feel like a lot of these, it's an easy to digest record, and like I think from obviously like now they're kind of more on that more like college radio route and like things like that. People know more out of that, but like I could see a lot of these songs on like mainstream radio or like it's like. Again, because it's like also that throwback where like I think people would hear it, and I mean right now too. I mean 90s are such a big thing. Oh yeah, it's like I think something like this would fit in because it also feels authentic in that way where like I mean they're obviously there for it too. I mean I just had a conversation with them. I mean it's them kind of writing to when they were like teenagers or whatever. Sure, it takes you back to that time. But it's interesting because again they used it to their advantage of influencing this record. In a way, I would have never expected this album to sound like. The follow-up, I wouldn't. This is not what you would think the follow-up. If you heard Downey, which is a great record, you would not think this was the logical next step. But it worked amazingly. Like, it works amazing. It'll be out. I mean, it'll probably be out like a week after this comes out. And again, you can hear like half the record now. But Surfing, really good song. New Year, really good song. And Grow Out of It. Those would be the three I would say check out. But I'm like... I don't know. I'm hoping for big things for them. I think some big things could be coming their way because, again, even though now they're like in the indie underground scene, they have that mass appeal. I think some bands don't have it. Some bands are like, well, you're never going to be that. Where I'm like with them, it's like I don't know. I think they have potential to kind of make it big.
Cool.
But what do you got? We'll do a couple more.
Okay, so number 2 is Soccer Mommy. The album is called Sometimes Forever. And
I've heard a few songs, not off that though. Like from a few years ago, I heard songs. I like them though.
I haven't heard any of their like earlier stuff. Like I kind of like cruised through like one of the previous albums or whatever. But this album, one of the songs popped up. The song Shotgun popped up, and I was like so blown away with it, and it's so much more like chill, kind of like almost like shoegazy pop kind of stuff that like I don't listen to, but this is something that like connected with me so much. And I think it's because there's these little elements of like kind of like almost early 90s like grungy alternative kind of stuff.
From what I've heard from them, I think you're totally spot on with that.
But it's also like you can tell either whoever's like writing the songs or is the producer, there's a lot of like influence of, you know, not just like Nirvana or like Smashing Pumpkins, but also like Beatles and Tom Petty and like these different things that like you're listening to it and it's all completely new. But there's so much familiarity throughout the entire album.
I love when things are like that.
Yeah.
Where it's new, you can't compare it to like one band, but also at the same time, it's reminiscent of something.
And
like, it feels familiar.
I think the 90s thing is like it's like minor verses but major choruses. So like it kind of starts off. It starts off like sounding kind of like very somber and serious, and then it's a little bit more uplifting in the chorus and everything. So
do they do the quiet loud dynamic a lot? I mean, that's quintessential 90s like the Pixies thing kind of.
Yeah, I think it's more it's pretty consistent throughout the album, but like this one is definitely like I can see this being like that early fall kind of like chill, sad kind of like album, but I couldn't stop listening to it. The first time I heard it, I was like, I don't know, just like I can't believe what I just heard. And it might be because, you know, there's probably other bands that like sound a lot like this, but because I don't listen to that like genre, I was like, whoa, this is so cool. But this album is definitely like, there's only like one song that I skip on it that I don't really care for, but the rest of them are just so good, and definitely like create a mood. And I've just been like driving around in my car like listening to this album on repeat, and it's like just infectious, but like definitely like transports you to like a more kind of like sad, kind of somber place.
Fall. That's a good fall record. Be sad.
But yeah, I was definitely like really, really impressed with this. I don't really know much about the band. I don't really know much about their earlier material or anything like that. But this one totally caught me off guard and made it definitely to some of my most played stuff this summer so far, at least.
I'll have to give it a listen because something you said that I agree with. Like, I just have kind of casually listened to them here and there, but like the thing I got is that is the big thing right now. Like shoegazy pop music, like it's everywhere, and I think millions of people are doing it. And it's not my thing. A lot of times I wish I could get into it because people seem to love it. Not my thing. Something about Soccer Mom here, I did go back and listen to them a few times where I was like, something brought me back that the other ones I'd turn off in 30 seconds. I'd be like, there's a million others like this. I ain't listening to this. Whereas that, I was like, I would revisit some of the songs and go, oh, no, those are actually really good.
There's definitely like, on this album for sure, there's like an authenticity in those influences. It's not like we're trying to sound like the Beatles here, and it's like in a ironic way. Like this is somebody who is actually like drawing from these influences and touching on these things in a way that makes the music better.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot more like catchy than most like, you know, shoegazy kind of stuff too. So yeah, I mean, I love it. So definitely check that one out. And the song that got me hooked was Shotgun.
Shotgun?
Yeah.
I'll have to listen to that.
But the first like 3 songs, I think maybe the 4th song I skip, and then like the 5th song, like it's like, whoa, this is, I gotta keep listening to this because this is like, I want to hear like more of where this is going.
That's a good, honestly, like if a record only has one or two bad songs, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Like if there's only really one or two songs you skip, I mean, obviously it'd be nice if it's just like flawless through and through, but I think most albums, there's probably one or two I skip.
Yep.
Like if I really think about it, even that Joyce Manor one, there's one or two where I'm like, as much as I love it, there's like even one song where like, it's okay. I'm just gonna hit skip. You know,
I would consider like one song skip like a perfect record.
Yeah, because you're not always going to get like 10 out of 10, 12 out of 12.
Right.
Like, if you only missed once, that's not bad.
I
really
would
not
consider that. I would consider that a perfect.
There's a lot of albums where like the album opener is the best thing, and then after that, it's just like, oh, you used all your best material in the first 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So
this one definitely continues out throughout the whole album. You can definitely see the whole spectrum of what this band is about, but yeah, those first couple of songs will get you hooked, and then the rest of the album will completely satisfy that itch.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll have to give that a listen. We'll do I got one or two here, and this one I definitely want to talk about, but Reminders, because this is honestly, this one has to be my favorite record of the year so far, but Reminders, Best of Beach Punk. This one came out in April, but is like, I mean, going back to summertime records, this is like the best summertime record. Like this is, it's even in the name, Best of Beach Punk. I mean, like the album cover, kind of the aesthetic thing. Like the album cover just fits with it. Everything about it, like when you look at the full package, it just all of it goes together.
Yeah,
and it's just really like, it's just a fun pop punk record. Like this one is no nonsense. It's like these dudes know what they can do. Like they know the music they like, they know their influences, they know their strengths as musicians and what they can't do. I think they also know that, like, those dudes know what they are able to do and what isn't going to sound very good. And it's just it's a strong debut record, but it's just this really catchy, fun pop punk record from just a trio in the UK. Isle of Wight they're from, and
wow,
just a really just fun, like, what I like about it actually. And it's one of my favorite things in pop punk that I don't think happens enough. Like, the ones that really come to mind are like a Green Day or an Alkaline Trio, where you kind of have a trio, but it's the bass that's doing the more intricate stuff. The guitar is more simple, straightforward, 3-chord power chords. That's not. It's what's going on under that's more interesting.
Yeah,
and that's like this. Like again, they're a trio, and it's like Leo, their singer and guitarist, do like some octave runs and different things, and it's like it works for the music. Their bass player is like doing like Mike Dirnt stuff. Like I listen to it, and Mike Dirnt comes to mind a lot. Same with Scott Shiflett from Face to Face. Like just those dry, like he's going all around the neck. Like he's not playing root notes. This dude's like, he's driving the songs with it, and I think that's one of the best things you can do with pop punk. And a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's kind of the bass is just following the guitar. Not a lot of originality in that sense. And I mean, sometimes that's fun, but I'm like, including as a bass player, I appreciate that when there's more going on with the bass.
Yeah. I mean, it's a versatile instrument, and if there's a bass player who can kind of like make that work and noodle around and have it complement the song, it's always awesome and fun to hear, because it's kind of unexpected, and it is sometimes. And it gives you something to pick up on and notice, like on multiple listens.
We also we'll have to throw some credit your way, because I got to say, in your music, a lot of times the bass doesn't seem secondary. Like a lot of times you have like bass intros and stuff where it's like you appreciate the bass. I know you appreciate the bass.
That's the strongest. That's my stronger instrument. There is the bass. So I definitely lean heavy on the bass leads and all of that stuff.
Good though. Not enough people like, I'm telling you, like, people go like, I love Green Day, and it's like, but you never think of the formula of there's more than just that 3-chord thing. Like the other guy's an amazing bass player doing some crazy runs.
Yep.
Like that's, same with Alkaline Trio. I mean, Danny is an amazing bass player.
Yep.
And I love Skiba. Skiba's playing octaves and stuff, and it works. Like that works.
Yeah.
Doing octaves over some nice bass lines, like I'm all about that. Like that's not enough pop punk bands are doing that.
Yeah.
Reminders do. They
cool.
It's one of those, it's like 10 songs, and it just, this one you don't skip a song. This one, that's probably why it's my number one. Like we're talking about how like maybe you'll skip one or two. This is a straightforward, like this is you listen to the whole thing. And also, it's short. I don't think this album is. I want to say this record probably clocks in 20 minutes, maybe. Let's see. Best of Beach Punk, 10 songs. It doesn't say how long it runs, but I'm gonna say you're in and out about 20 minutes. The longest song on here is 3 minutes and 34 seconds, and the rest of them are basically a lot of like minute 51s.
Yep.
Kind of like So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes. And we were discussing that a while back. Like one of those records or a lot of those where it's like we just cut out the fat. Like it's a full song, but it's done in 2 minutes. Like by the time the 2 minute song is done, the song's over.
Yeah.
It's gone by now.
Yep.
But I mean, just it really fun. Like I was lucky. This album came out in April, and like somewhere before that, I got passed along like a stream for it. So I've been listening to it almost since the beginning of the year. And even when it was like bitter, cold West New York winters, like listening to it, you're like, this record's going to hit hard in July.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was good then, but like I was even thinking listening to it like February, I'm like, damn, come like June, July, this is the record, nice day, just driving down the street. Like this is what you listen to. And it really is. On a nice day, if I'm like just jump in the car, open up Bandcamp, I hit play on that. It's like it's a go-to. It's easy. I know I'm gonna like it.
Sometimes you do need those records though in the middle of winter when there's like no hope in sight, and you're like, you know what? I need a fucking summer record right now. I need a little like mental kind of vacation in my mind, and I'm just gonna put this on and close my eyes or put on a screensaver of palm trees and an ocean and just kind of take myself away from where I'm at right now.
No, I totally agree with that. It was again like it was a nice thing to like kind of just listen to going up to it, which also made sense because I ended up interviewing their singer, and they're from Isle of Wight, UK, which I don't think a super sunny place.
No.
I don't think it's a super summertimey place as far as I know, but they recorded in Los Angeles.
There it is.
And it was like that was a record where it was like you can tell the surroundings I think played a role into it.
Yeah.
Where it was like it almost bleeds out.
Yeah.
Like when you realize where they recorded, it's like, oh, that makes like total sense.
Yeah.
It's like that. I think that goes into a lot of it where he recorded it and stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, like the songs were. I would imagine the songs were probably already written, but like it definitely can help the environment that it's in and the place that you're in. That all works its way into what you're doing.
I think those dudes too are big. Like I think a lot of their favorite bands, like American bands, so coming over and recording like in Los Angeles stuff, like it's a cool. You know what I mean? Like they get a kick out of it. It's like a little pilgrimage and stuff.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. If you went and recorded somewhere like your favorite bands are from or something, you know?
That's awesome.
It's one of those like things. But no, that whole record. I mean, it's fast, it's fun, it's good for the summer. I would say the three songs again is my favorite song off of it. Daisy and Carousel, I would say, are all. And the other thing too, a record that I think could probably, it's funny because a few years ago I wouldn't say that like a lot of pop punk bands might get like radio airplay and stuff. But now it seems like it's a little bit of a thing now again. Mm-hmm. A lot of it's terrible though. Like it's awful pop punk that's big, but like still I could see them maybe getting. I mean, the songs are catchy, including like a Daisy. Like I could see them breaking out through that other side, like into the actual mainstream, which I would love for them. But that is easily my favorite record of the year. Reminders, Best of Beach Punk. That is, I've been talking that one up like the whole time.
Nice.
But I don't know. You got like one more. You want to talk like one more record here?
I got one more.
There we go. Beautiful.
This one, I'm not even gonna call it a record. I'm gonna call it a concept because this is from a really good friend of mine, Joel Murray. I've been working with him and playing with him and being a fan of his music for the better part of like 15 years or something like that. So I'm always super pumped on anything that this kid comes out with, but this I knew kind of like a little bit of the story behind it, and I heard it and really liked it, and then really dug in to the lyrics and educated myself about like what was actually going on with this album. And I'm so like blown away by this experience, because it's not just an album. So it's a concept album, and the whole experience, like if you sit and listen to it and read the lyrics and kind of like understand what's going on, like it's like watching a movie, like, or like hearing a musical version of a Stephen King book.
Really?
Like it's crazy that like the imagery and
I'm intrigued.
The concept and the music. So it's like it's very like kind of like chill indie, almost shoegazy kind of stuff, but has some like a little bit of aggressiveness and has a lot of like atmospheric like ambiance.
I was
going to
say like an ambiance to it, kind of like a soundscape or something.
So and the two members, it's my buddy Joel Murray. He has like a group with his wife called The Murrays, and they've put out some incredible albums. And this kid Corey McConnell, who lives in LA. So Joel lives in Nashville, Corey lives in LA. He will write the songs like almost like musically start to finish, send them over to Joel, and Joel will like write lyrics and record the vocals, send them back to Corey, and he'll like mix it, master it, and like that's it. And it's like this incredible project that is like so, I think, so rare in like music, that like somebody could just like completely write a song, send it to another person, that person like totally picks up on the vibes that they're putting down, and you know, like nails the fucking vocals, and then that's it, the song's done. But it's not just that, it's not just like writing a good song, like they literally wrote a whole like story, like it's almost like writing a screenplay and the soundtrack at the same time.
Jeez.
So this
sounds amazing. Actually,
it's so good. It's so good. And I was just like texting with my buddy Joel like literally an hour ago, like about like the little nuances, like what's happening here and what's happening there, and he like gave me a little bit of backstory about it and stuff. And so the band is Dog Ears. The album is called Shadow on the Blacktop, and it's a concept album, and it's about an accident that happens on 86 in Western New York, and it takes place from like the different point of view of the different people like in the traffic jam, and like there's like a sheriff who like shows up to the scene and stuff, and like from his perspective, and he's got his whole like backstory, and then like they're like the people, you know, it like in each car, like what they're thinking and what they're going through, and then they're also like in this traffic jam, and then one of the people has this like terrible dark secret that like as nightfall comes, like they're concerned that this is going to come out, and there's going to be like a really bad situation happening. So I'm not going to give it away.
This is like a movie. This is like,
it is. I was texting, dude. I told my buddy, I was like, somebody from like Netflix needs to pick this up, because it sounds like it's almost like I don't know if you ever saw the show Black Summer, like that zombie show.
Never even heard of it.
It's like I think the first season is like 6 episodes, and the way that each episode plays out is like from the different. It's like the same 1 hour event, but like from the different point of view of all these people in this like
cool.
zombie scenario. And I was like, this could totally be like given that treatment, or at least like have a music video of like exactly what's happening, because it's not just like oh well, we're stuck in this traffic jam. Like there's this whole story. So like it's putting all the pieces in place, and then seeing how everything plays out, because shit hits the fan. and it's really dark and it's really crazy. And I'm not going to give it away, but if you listen to this, you need to go to Bandcamp and you need to know that there's this concept, and one of the people, one of the characters, has this dark secret, and everybody else is like has to deal with this, thinking it's this mundane like traffic jam, traffic accident, and it's really like a really dark situation. So read through the lyrics as you're listening to the album. You gotta like, you can't just like put this on and like drive or
This sounds like an active. You don't like clean the house while you're doing like or something that you can like to focus in on it. Like you got to be listening.
If you do like just do that to like kind of familiarize yourself with the song, so you're kind of like know what you're listening to, and
but
then
you're gonna hear like 30% of it,
and
right?
then
And
then at least on the second or third listen, you need to like go through and read the lyrics and like go through this story, because it like I was reading the
really
lyrics.
Cool.
I was reading the lyrics last night, so it's the song "Rain." After like listening to the whole thing and getting down to this song, which is like the 11th song. So there's 12 songs total. 11th song, it's like kind of a more chill, almost like acoustic-y, like spooky kind of sound. Like this is a total fall. This is total fall album. But that I was getting goosebumps like thinking about this scenario, because it's like when you're reading a book. Like when you're reading a book and you put yourself in that place and oh my God.
Different from what you do with music normally. It's kind of different.
Yeah.
Like what you're talking about, you don't do that as much.
This is completely immersive, and I mean, these guys deserve to have like some kind of. At first, I was like, "Oh, it would be cool to have it be like a comic book, like almost like what was the Inevitables? Was it that the band with from
Vinny?
And they did like a corresponding like comic book and different things. I was like, it could be like that. But then I was like, I mean, that's even like selling it short. Like it should have like, these should be like music videos or something at least of like what's going on. And it's really, really cool. I definitely recommend everyone check it out. Even if you're not like a more chill kind of like indie shoegazy like fan. If you're like a literary fan, if you're a lyric fan, a poetry fan, a book, just like, you know, just a fan of fiction and artistic vision in general, and like spooky kind of like supernatural horror-y kind of stuff, absolutely check this out.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, even if you didn't tell us like the sound or even describe what it is, like I just think the concept of it, like it could be a polka record, but like if that's the concept of it, that's interesting enough to want to go check out. And
somehow, and it's so what blows me away is the fact that it's this story, but the music fits what is happening so well, and there's a couple like instrumental. Kind of like little like instrumental break songs where there's no lyrics or words or anything. It's just and it like totally like puts your mind where the story is at, like in a movie where the music like is like swells around like a dramatic kind of climactic scene. Like that's exactly what this does. It like puts you right there, and then the next song hits and like you pick up right where the story is. But you, even just listening to the music, you can like imagine what is happening like during these different like kind of like musical sound effect kind of things. And I mean it's definitely something that needs to be more popular and heard and seen than it is.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is really. I think you've sold that record quite well.
Yeah.
What's it? You want to give the name again?
Dog Ears, Shadow on the Blacktop.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
That is definitely, which again, which I don't know, that's a weird one. Would you say with that album, is it when you have to listen front to back, or can you kind of jump in and listen to like one? So, you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I mean,
like, can you throw a song on a playlist, or does it sound okay?
You could throw a song on a playlist, and people would be like, "There's definitely a story here. This is not only like a good song, a really good song, but there's a story here there's part of a story here that's bigger than what I'm just hearing right now." So yeah, we'll definitely, if we get a playlist together, there will be one or two of these songs need to be on there.
Oh yeah, no, we'll because it'll be out in like 2 weeks. So I got more than enough time to like throw something together. So we'll get my songs and your songs and everything together. We'll make a nice old playlist.
Sweet. Before
this comes out. But yeah, I mean, as we start like closing out here, any other like honorable mentions or anything you didn't bring up that were some good ones? I know a few I didn't really talk about, but were really good. I mean, for one, both those Ergs EPs that the Ergs put out earlier this year, both of those were excellent. I was really into that. I still got to listen to Mikey's new. I know he just put out a solo record. I got to listen to that some more, but the couple ones I've heard were good things on there. Heart to Gold, a band they're like a Twin Cities band, but they're not technically. I think they're like in a suburb of Minneapolis. They put out, I'd never heard of them before. They put out a solid record this year that's like, I don't even know how you describe it. It's like, it's indie rock. It's a little post-hardcore, but not in the sense, like it's heavy, but it's not heavy in like, I don't know. It's not heavy. I don't know. It's hard to explain. They have a song called Tiger's Jaw about the band Tiger's Jaw. Sweet. And it's really good. Like it's this, I don't know, because they're a band where it's like, the album's called Tom, and it's like, the cover's like a picture of a dude's face. Like they're kind of funny, but the music's not. You know what I mean? Like they do some meme stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Kind of like ironic things, but more in their look and all that. Sound-wise, they're a serious band. Like, got it. Like, I mean, I don't know what you would you call a song Tiger's Jaw, you don't know what to make of it, but then you listen, it's like, oh no, this is like really good. Mm-hmm. They're a good one. Gregor Barnett, I mean, of the Menzingers, his solo record, Don't Go Throwing Roses in My Grave. I liked that one a lot. I think that one sits up there as a nice in-between of sounding a bit like a Menzingers record, but being different enough where I go, I get why it's a solo record. Because sometimes people just put out a solo record, and it's like, why don't you just call this a Menzingers record or something? Mm-hmm. But those, and Night Crickets, one of my favorite earlier in the year. That was like the first record that came out that I really liked. And that's a weird one. I won't get into that one because it's very hard to describe. And I think you got to listen to it to fully understand it, but maybe I'll throw a few songs off of that on the playlist as well. But how about you? Any others you just want to mention at all as we close out?
So Dan Andriano and the Bygones.
I need to revisit that one more. I listened to it when it came out. I got to listen more.
It's got some good jams on there.
I don't know if you like the band Get Married at all, but like half their band played on that.
Oh, really?
Kayla played bass, Randy played guitar, and I think maybe Randy's brother, someone played drum. Okay. Like, they have like a good chunk of he's playing was the band Get Married. Cool. Which is huge for them because I know they were all huge Alkaline Trio fans, and they're on Asian Man Records and all that. I don't know if they're still a band or not, but Get Married is also an amazing pop punk band if you've never listened to them.
There we go. A Wilhelm Scream. Their new album is like, I mean, if you're a Wilhelm Scream fan, then you definitely have to listen to this because
I just saw on Chorus FM the other day. I think they did basically like this, like best albums of the year so far. I think everybody on that list had that record. Like everybody's list, no matter what genres or where the other bands on it, like the one commonality was a Wilhelm Scream was on all of them.
Mm-hmm. No Trigger, they did an EP, but I think their new album that like a lot of these songs are going to be on is coming out in a couple of weeks, but
be like that No Win, like by the time you hear this, like in a week or so it'll be out.
That one is really cool. What else was I listening to? The Legs, it's LLEG, The Legs. They're out of Philly. That was a cool album. Trophy Jump, Tree River, this band The Anchorage, Signals Midwest. Alway put out a new album.
I've not listened to that yet, and I need to.
Short Fiction, Grumpster.
Grumpster's another one. I've not listened to that. I like everything I've heard from Grumpster. I got to listen to that record. Mm-hmm. They're another really good pop punk band.
And then Suicide Machines.
I can't
Cut
wait.
Caddish Split.
Wait, is that already out?
That one came out like a couple days ago.
I thought it was coming out later on. I need to listen to that. I've been looking forward to it. I didn't know it was out yet.
Yep, check it out.
After that last record, the Suicide Machines, I've been stoked for any follow-up to Revolution Spring. I'm like, after they put that, I'm like, all right, you guys are good. Like,
yeah,
you still know how to. They're another good example of that. Of take that time off. If this is a record we get after all those years, I'm happy with that.
Yep.
But yeah, you know, this has been fun for you. Where can we find you? Find your music? Anything else you got going on? Any of that good stuff? Where do we find Joey Cobra? What you up to?
joeycobra.bandcamp.com. You can find my music on like Spotify, Apple Music, all those places. As far as me releasing music, I don't know.
Will you be on this list later?
I will not be, not on 2022, but
it would be funny if your number one record of the year just was yours. Like this whole thing was
what
a
an
ploy
asshole
for you to promote your upcoming
What a
record.
terrible.
That's what you're like, guys.
I'd be fired.
This would be like Tom DeLonge when he was like addicted to like after Blink-182 broke up and he was telling everyone like Angels and Airwaves is the best thing that's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
I wrote the best record the last 30 years. That'd be you on here. Like,
oh, that's terrible.
Guys, later on this year, like I'm going to change the face of music forever.
Yeah. No way. I saw some band in Edinburgh play, and it was like this kid just like playing bad electric guitar by himself on stage because I think like the rest of his band members had quit by then, and he was like, "This song is a funny song because it's my favorite song, and it also happens to be a song that I wrote." And I was like, "What? Those words came out of your mouth? What?
If only you could be so lucky to write your
Jesus
favorite
Christ.
song. Who's your favorite musician?
Me, I guess.
Right here,
yeah.
man.
I mean, you know, kids do a lot of drugs when they're 18, so I guess
Yeah,
you say a lot of weird shit.
To be honest, he'll probably regret. I would hope if he has any self-reflection or whatever, years later would watch that and would probably cringe.
I can
at
guarantee.
the thought of what
I can
he
guarantee
said
that
and did.
dude never even gave it a second thought. He didn't even know that he said it as soon as he stepped off the stage. He was like, "What? Why
He
is
says
everybody
it every
looking
night.
at me weird?"
He
yeah.
says that like on a daily. Like, you guys ever hear the greatest song ever written?
Yeah, I wrote it. That's like a Tenacious D, but in an unironic way.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No humor, zero humor.
Yeah. So, yeah, but no, I don't plan on releasing any music in 2022. But maybe that itch will, maybe I'll start like demoing.
You gave us a lot of
some
music
stuff
though in
again.
a short amount of time there for a while. It was like
It was
2020, 2021. You put 2 EPs, 3 EPs.
Yeah, but one it was 2, and I almost released a third one.
That's right.
But
I remember that.
I decided to scrap it, and I don't know if you follow the band meme 666 on Instagram, but
No.
this dude, he always makes these jokes about like a guy like working on a EP for like years and years and years, and it's
I know
just
a few
like
people who've been
it
doing that.
Really hits home to me in a hurtful but also hilarious way. So yeah, I don't know. I think that at some point I would like to I'll start playing live again and
Yes.
putting out some music and stuff. I was like, well, what would be easier for me to like try to get together with a band and hit a studio, or try to take forever and record something myself? I don't know what. So I'm at the beginning of like kind of starting that itch and
Scratch that.
seeing where that takes me over the next, I don't know, year or two. But no pressure, no expectations at this point. But
Nice.
I'm focusing a lot on my art. My website's josephgrice.art. You can find me on Instagram, Joseph_Grice_art. Trying to do that a lot, and also take care of a 2-year-old little growing baby.
You busy man.
Yeah.
But yeah, check out the art and music. I mean, both are great. And if you have me in the Jamestown area, definitely check it out. You got a local artist and musician here. But beautiful stuff. For us at Power Chord Hour, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you follow us, I'd love it. Podcast, rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen. New radio shows 8 to midnight Eastern every Friday night. That is a long show. You need to listen. I put so much work. That's a long time to do that. Like 60 song playlists. I'm getting sick of it. Please listen. 8 to midnight Eastern, 107.9 WRFA. If you don't live in Jamestown, WRFALP.com. You'll see the big old listen button. Click that bad boy, and you can stream the show. But until next week for the Power Chord Hour, I'm Anthony Merchant. Thank you so much for listening.